This first book that I'm going to read to you is called A Picture Book of Martin Luther King Jr. And it's by David A. Adler, illustrated by Robert Casilla. And what's really neat is that we're celebrating Black History Month, and we can use books like this to think about the impact of important Americans like Martin Luther King Jr. So let's read. A Picture Book of Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of America's great leaders. He was a powerful speaker, and he spoke out against laws which kept Black people out of many schools and jobs. He led protests and marches demanding fair laws for all people. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. That's why we don't have school next Monday. It's because we're going to celebrate his birthday. Martin's father was a pastor, kind of like a priest, como un señor, un pastor, sí. His mother had been a teacher. Martin has an older sister, Willie Christine, and a younger brother, Alfred Daniel. Young Martin liked to play baseball, football, and basketball. He liked to ride his bicycle and to sing. He often sang in his father's church, Martin Center, with his brother Alfred Daniel and his sister, Willie Christine.
Mr. Haven?
I just read it. Yes, Fred.
My cousin's name is Daniel too.
That's wonderful.
Mr. Haven? And also...
Wait. Keep your hands down until I call him, okay? I'm going to keep reading. Young Martin played in his own backyard with his friends. One day, he was told that one of his friends would no longer play with him because they were white and he was black. So they said, I'm not going to play with you because you're a different color skin than me. Martin cried. He didn't understand why the color of his skin should matter to anyone. Martin's mother told him that many years ago, Black people were brought in chains to America and sold as slaves. She told him that long before Martin was born, the slaves had been set free. However, there were still some people who did not treat Black people fairly. Yes, sweetheart.
My cousin Kai Kai, he has two brothers and they're twins, and he likes to play football, and then he throws the ball at me and then I cannot catch it, and well, it's difficult for me, but I'll keep trying.
Good. Yes, you had a question.
My Theo is a pastor.
Thank you. Yes, sweetheart. Last one.
That's like Ruby Bridges.
Yeah, like Ruby Bridges. Good. Nice text-to-text connection. Very good.
And also Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Let's keep reading.
And Roberto Clemente.
Gracias. Gracias. Good connections, boys and girls. I'm very impressed. In Atlanta, where Martin lived, and elsewhere in the United States, there were white-only signs. I wonder what that means. Black people were not allowed in some parks, pools, hotels, restaurants, and even schools. Blacks were kept out of many jobs. I wonder how that would have felt. How would you felt if you were a Black person back then?
Sad.
Yeah. How would it make you feel?
Mad.
Yeah. Mad, sad?
Annoyed.
Como? Herido, wounded, right? Hurt.
Annoyed.
Yeah. Right. It would make you feel hurt. Martin learned to read and become at home before he was old enough to start school. All through his childhood, he read books about Black leaders. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, George Washington Carver. Martin was a good student. He finished high school 2 years early, and just 15, he entered Morehouse College in Atlanta. At college, Martin decided to become a minister.
What's a minister?
It's like a pastor.
Oh.
Yeah. After Martin was graduated from Morehouse, he studied for a doctorate at Boston University. While he was there, he met Coretta Scott. She was studying music. They fell in love and married. In 1954, Martin Luther King Jr. began his first job as a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama. The next year, Rosa Parks, a black woman, was arrested in Montgomery for sitting on the whites-only section of a bus. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led a protest. Blacks throughout the city refused to ride the buses. Dr. King said, "There comes a time when people get tired of being kicked about." Well, because that's kind of how he spoke. He spoke with a very bold voice. One night, while Dr. King was at a meeting, someone threw a bomb into his house. It's true. Martin's followers were angry. They wanted to fight. Martin told them to go home peacefully. "We must love our white brothers," he said. "We must meet hate with love." So did he think they should fight back?
No.
No. Some people want to fight back, but he said no.
Mr. Hayman and Dale.
Whoa. Do we just call out? Nope. Hands down. It's kind of a long book, so I'm going to keep reading, okay, guys? The bus protest lasted almost a year. When it ended, there was no more white-only section on buses. Dr. King decided to move back to Atlanta in 1960. There, he continued to lead peaceful protests against white-only waiting rooms, lunch counters, and restrooms. He led many marches for freedoms. In 1963, Dr. King led the biggest march of all, the March on Washington. More than 200,000 black and white people followed him. "I have a dream," he said in the speech. "I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." The next year, in 1964, Dr. King was awarded one of the great honors any man can win, the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a special medal that you get. Okay? No? When you raise your hand, I want you to see you raise it quietly. Then maybe I'll call you. Not yet. Maybe next time. But don't go. Right? That's what kids do. That's the whole point of raising your hand, so you don't need to make any noise. I see your hand. So do you need to make any noise when you raise it? No. So just raise it quietly. The country was changing. New laws were passed. Blacks could go to the same schools as whites. They could go to the same stores, restaurants, and hotels. White-only signs were against the law, so they couldn't do those white-only signs. Dr. King told his followers to protest peacefully, but there were some riots and some violence.
What is the doctor mean?
What?
What does the doctor mean?
The dogs, the police dogs, would scare people.
Ew, he's eating his pants.
Well, they would bite. They would bite. They were very scary.
Why did they bite?
Then, in April 1968, Dr. King went to Memphis, Tennessee. He planned to march so black and white garbage workers would get the same pay for the same work. On April 4th in Memphis, Dr. King stood outside his motel room. Another man, James Earl Ray, was hiding nearby. He pointed a rifle, that's like a gun, una pistola, at Dr. King. He fired the gun. An hour later, Dr. King was dead. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of a world free of hate, prejudice, and violence. Carved on the stone which marks his grave were the words, "I am free at last." Yes.
I never la lista of Luther King and other person.
Good. You know, he died when he was only 39 years old. That's younger than I am. You can learn more about Dr. King in some of these Scholastic news articles. So if you have a chance, please take a look at these, because these are all really helpful to learn more about Dr. King. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. Martin Luther King. Yes.